Look at Ron Cash run to the distance. 398 with a 6 at 323 miles an hour.
The 70th edition of the U.S. Nationals is presented by Peak. Peak original equipment technology matches all vehicle manufacturers' antifreeze technology requirements, and Peak has the perfect match for your vehicle. With their line of premium coolants specifically designed to match the technology and color requirements of your specific vehicle. Color cues on the packaging and a label and the list of covered vehicles make it easier to identify the right match for your vehicle. Find more information about all Peak antifreeze and coolants at peakauto.com or the link below. And be sure to sign up for a Peak US Nationals giveaway contest where we're giving away 3 swag bags from our friends at Peak Performance. Winners will be announced during Monday's recap video of the US Nationals.
Just a little quick background for anybody if you weren't here last year. Ron Capps for a number of years drove for Don Snake Prudhomme, the legend, of course, in the National Hot Rod Association. Last year, with permission from everybody involved, which had to be kind of like getting congressional permission, they were able to put together the Hot Wheels car as a tribute to something that Don did 50 years ago. And because Cinderella really does exist, they went out and won the race with the snake in the house. So the tradition has begun now for Ron to bring special things to Indy. And I mean, no pressure or anything, but you have to unveil it and then you have to win. You good with that?
I think so. I've been told there's only one cooler funny car in the history of the sport than the Hot Wheels car.
And this is it?
Well, we hope this is it. It definitely was 50 years ago. This also goes back 50 years again, when his terror on the NHRA opponents in the funny car division started with this car. And I built this model as a kid. So many great memories for a lot of us in this sport, and even people out of the sport. So this is going to be something we probably...
50 years ago, you and I were playing Hot Wheels. Does this really mean that much to you?
Yes. Probably even more so.
I can't think of what's cooler than a Hot Wheels car. Let's see it.
So you said back at Bristol that there's really no way that you can top it. I think this is pretty close considering the history behind that car and just the iconic nature that the car has. What does it feel like now? You're 2 days away from getting to drive that in Q1. What is your reaction getting to see that car for the first time?
It's been exhausting. That was the first time I actually saw the car. I've been working on renderings and you know, after last year and as hard as we worked to get that done and Napa Auto Parts to say okay and kind of come off the car a little bit and let us do the tribute car, I've thought a lot about even going there again. I mean, how do you even come close to topping it? Not even topping it. I mean, honestly, if we could do half as well as we did last year, I would be ecstatic. You know, then as the weekend gets closer, like last year, we were qualified all right, you know, we did okay Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday, I just remember Snake in the pit area every run. He's like, hey man, you know, we win first round. He's like, you guys got what it takes to get past the next one? And he was watching what Guido was doing, and it was really fun to watch him because I drove for him for so long, to watch him sort of sitting back and enjoying the ride. Because as we kept winning, second round we beat Hagen, which was huge because that clinched the regular season for us as far as the points. And then we had Height, who was on fire, semis, you know, and then we go in the final round with the special Hot Wheels car, and you're just thinking there's no way this is going to happen. And next thing you know, I'm in the winner's circle. So a lot of, talking to myself, I should not do this. I should not even approach trying to do what we did last year. And then the more people kept saying, you got to do something. And there's only one cooler car than the Hot Wheels car, and that was Snake's Army car. Obviously, the races he won in that livery, the championships, all in the Army car, in funny car. So a lot of really cool stuff. You know, 50 years ago when he brought that car out. So we're on the 50 year again, like we were with the Hot Wheels car. So there's been a lot of things that were just lining up. And so about 2 months ago, I'm like, okay, now we got to try it. So that's kind of when it started.
So you talked about getting Napa to sign off on this. That was something you talked about last year, the extent that Napa and even Toyota went to wanting to make this car as close as possible to the point where they're saying, no, take that logo off the car. We want this to be a replica. How much does that mean to you that even on short notice as this project was, that they're like full gun-ho was like, yes, please go ahead and do it? What does that mean to you to get to have a partnership like that where they're just open and willing to do anything to affect their brand in an era where nobody wants to do that anymore?
Well, Catherine Wooten, who came on board with the Napa a few years ago, in fact, she was at PRI with me when we announced me going into ownership, and it was great to have her by our side. She had just joined Napa Auto Parts at that time, so she handles all the sponsorship with NASCAR and Brad Sweeten, World Outlaws and High Limit Racing and all that, as well as NASCAR trucks. So last year, when I first sent the Hot Wheel car to her and I sent a whole email of what the Hot Wheels car meant to me and what it meant in the history of NHRA. And I was blown away because she was almost encouraging more that we make the car as real tribute-wise and make it as realistic and not worrying. Because I said, hey, we can stick a Napa here or Napa there. She goes, no, you do what you're doing. That car is already going to be awesome. So for her to step out and say that to us and let me start that process was unbelievable. And it's paid off, of course. It's one of the coolest things in the sport, right? Everybody's talked about it. So to have a partner like Napa and Genuine Parts Company that decided to do that was cool. So that's another reason I was like, do I go there again? And I sent the pictures of the renderings for this car with the Army car, and I said, here's the history of this car. And it didn't take her long. She thought it was pretty cool. And then, of course, I didn't know that Toyota was in the works to be a sponsor of this event with being the 70th annual U.S. Nationals. So being a Toyota team that's won the back-to-back U.S. Nationals, like Antron and I won together the last 2 years, when Toyota announced they were going to be the sponsor, it was like, something's telling me we need to do this. So, and we just started the whole process over again. Got the okay from Napa Auto Parts and Catherine. Went to Toyota. They said, we'd love to be a part of it. Talked to our little partners that are on the car that mean so much to us, and they were all in. So it was, at that point, it was like, okay, now we got to get all the logistics done. And again, I didn't see it until we just unwrapped it. So it's been, I'm going to sleep well tonight. It's been a lot of sleepless nights leading up to tonight.
And you talked about as well your partnership with Toyota. They just signed on to sponsor the U.S. Nationals. The last 2 years that you won this, it was a Dodge event, a group of people that you worked with in your past in your career when you drove for DSR. Now that Toyota's on here and they're on your car and they jumped on you 2 years ago, is there a sense of pride again to go into an event, the 70th edition, and the manufacturer that's on your shirt and on your car is the thing that's going to be on the billboards down the racetrack? Yeah,
and on top of that, we knew we were doing this, probably, several months ago. So Ida had showed me the paint scheme she was going to bring out in Brainerd, and it was red, white, and blue. And I couldn't say anything about our thing. I thought, that's cool. And then Tony Stewart was going to do his announcement, which he did on the Pat McAfee show, and I saw their cars, which were red, white, and blue, but kind of more of an Evel Knievel look. And so we've already known we were going to do this car. Of course, it's red, white, and blue. It was the Army car. But I thought, man, how cool. This is going to be a really cool race with all these special paint schemes. It really, the way this race used to be, So with all that going on and Toyota announcing that they were a sponsor, I was blindsided. I had no idea, and none of us did. So that was also something pretty cool. But you got to remember last year, the Hot Wheels car, one of the coolest things I thought was Mark Whitney and Dodge, direct connection people, actually gave our Hot Wheels Toyota Supra best appearing car last year. And they were a sponsor of the race, Dodge was. And that was pretty cool of them. I drove for them for a long time. So that's when I knew it was going to be a special weekend. And it meant a lot to not only the fans, but everybody when we ran the Hot Wheels car. So that being said, I would love to see more people do throwback schemes and tribute cars. There's so many really cool ones in our sport. I'm not sure what's going to happen after this, but you got to remember, Don Prudhomme pulled me as a driver when nobody really knew who I was, and he saw something in me and stuck me in this rock star role of driving for the biggest name in motorsports, threw me in a funny car, saw something that he thought would make me a good funny car driver, and I'll never forgive that. And that's really what started the whole process last year of wanting to have him come back and hang out. We need Don Prudhomme. We need these legends out at the U.S. Nationals, and I thought it was cool. And the look in his eyes when I showed him the rendering for the U.S. Army car that we did with Napa, his eyes lit up. And he just called me a minute ago after watching the Facebook Live of the unveiling, and he just kept saying, man, it's so cool. I can't wait to get there. So that all together is just, it's already making me feel like we did the right thing.
Does it give you a bit more excitement going to this event because of the fact you get to bring Don Prudhomme back? Because when he retired and he stopped having a team owner, you didn't really see too much of him, I would say, at most racetracks unless we're out in the West. To bring him back to the big go of all races, does that make it a bit more special for you to get to bring these cars back and also have Don in your corner again?
I love seeing our legends. I love when Garlits comes out. I love Billy Meyer's going to be out this week, and I love seeing Shirley out there. Our sport needs to have these legends. I built their models. I played with their cars when I was a kid, all of them. So I'm still in awe when I see him. Even Snake, even though I drove for him, he'll text me once, twice, 3 times a week, every week. So we stay in contact. So with that being said, the U.S. Nationals is the U.S. Nationals for a reason. It's the big go for a reason. And I love that NHRA has done this really cool thing with the legends and brought them back. And I think it's appropriate that we add to that with this tribute car we're doing. I think when the fans see it the first time Friday, up in the grandstands, and they see the car during a burnout, it's going to take a lot of people back to when they were kids. And I still, to this day, last year at Indy, I had people in tears coming up to me saying that car meant so much to them, how cool it was we brought it out. And I think it's going to have the same effect on a lot of people. We made some cool throwback based off the old uniforms that Snake had. We made a cool fire suit based off of his fire suit and a helmet. I've got some really cool merchandise that we made that the team's going to wear. You know, we did everything but the flared bell-bottom pants. That was trying to get done, but it's going to be fun. I enjoy this part of it, and I enjoy the process of the U.S. Nationals.
Another question, looking ahead to Friday night, the story for you throughout your entire career was how you could win any race in the season except this. You had a Dale Earnhardt story where this was the one thing that eluded you your entire career. I remember watching races back in like 2011, 13. The frustration would show on the top end, talking about drivers you felt weren't deserving to win, and yet you're out here struggling just to get a Wally at this event. With how the pressure is trying to get into these big events and win this, with these now 2 back-to-back wins after trying for so long, has it been a little bit easier now to get to walk into IRP knowing you never have to answer that question again of, can I win this thing?
It sort of disappears because we're here again, and you almost forget that you won, or you want to forget. You don't want to remember. I'm sure Tony doesn't want to remember, Tony Schumacher, that he's won it 10 times. You want to try to win it again. And if you go in with that lax attitude, like, I've already got a ring from a championship, why do I need to fight as hard? That is the opposite. So I had won at this track before. You got to remember we won the Big Bud Shootout 3 times early in my career. So I had won on a Sunday at this track. We came here for COVID races, and I won here at a COVID race. I just never had won on a Monday. So technically I'd won at this track, but never the U.S. Nationals. So to finally do that year before last, and then to do it back-to-back, is that in itself tells you what Indy is all about. A person can go from not winning and go their whole career like mine. God, at that point I was like 70 wins in my career and had never won Indy, to winning it back-to-back. It's just crazy how that works. Kenji Okazaki winning. You go down the list of people, Jim Head when he won. People that you wouldn't pick as a winner at that time. That's what Indy's all about. It creates these weird moments in history, and very cool moments. So I was very glad to finally get a win, and then to go back-to-back was something you'd never imagine.
No, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because he's a great driver, a lot of victories, and he's not hasn't won.
Has he won here yet? No? Oh,
I mean,
man.
the final in 09, that was close to.
Yeah.
I think it was 08 actually.
Good point, yeah. So I hope he goes another year with it. Hope we can hold him off.
He has the slow parts on now, and he's still as fast as he was back at the beginning of the season, which is crazy to think about.
We talked about that as well.
So, last question for me. You're a guy who, well, everybody else here can talk about how much they love Indy for what it meant to their childhood, to them as a racer because of the history. You have a very different outlook on this race, not only just because of the fact that it's the Big O, but because of your love of motorsports entirety with the big track down the street. There's a famous quote that Al Unser Jr. said when he won his first one, that you don't know what Indy means. What does Indy mean to Ron Capps?
Oh, what does Indy mean to me? If you could just put it in a short phrase, it's what always stands out to me is when I had Ed the Ace McCulloch, one of my, obviously got to drive for him as a crew chief, but one of my heroes growing up, right? He had the snake and the mongoose, and he had Ed the Ace McCulloch. I didn't know. I drove for him for probably 4 years before I realized that he had never won a world championship. I just assumed Ed the Ace McCulloch's got multiple world championships. He had won Indy so many times and was such a huge part of the history of the sport. I just assumed it, but when I saw him get questioned one year at Indy while I was sitting in his lounge with him by a reporter, and they asked about what Indy means, and to ask somebody like that what means more, a championship or an Indy win, I've heard some of my biggest heroes mention Indy right there. They couldn't tell you what meant more. So if a one race means as much as a world championship, that's insane to think about. You can compare it to the Indy 500 and right over here, the Daytona race. It means that much to the NASCAR and the IndyCar drivers. It surely means that much to NHRA, because I didn't realize it either. We'd won a championship and then finally won Indy, and the amount of exhaling, like, oh my gosh, we finally won Indy, was as much or more so than winning a championship. It means that much.